Okay. Are you guys able to hear us?
Yep.
Yep.
I think they said something. I don't think we were able to hear them.
Well, let me, yeah, maybe microphone. Hello? Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear
We can
you.
hear you, but I guess you
Hello?
can't.
Okay.
Oh,
Again, that's fine.
Yeah, I think we can hear you
there's
now.
an echo though. Or there was an echo.
So is this, it's fine now? Great.
No, I can hear myself. Sometimes. I don't know why. Gaston, were you hearing the echo as well, or it's just me?
Yeah, I was hearing a slight echo. But if we mute each other, then I guess it's fine. Or our steps on each other.
Does it help? Do you feel?
No.
Okay. So that's it. Because of this, I guess.
Oh, I said no. I don't know what that meant.
Does not help.
Does
Oh,
not
does not
help.
help. Okay. Oh, does not help.
Are you guys trying to use the Hangouts microphone thing?
Unmuted here.
Can you try again?
Is it better?
It sounds like it could be good now. Yeah, I don't hear myself.
Hello?
Oh,
Seems okay.
Oh, I think
wait.
Seems-
Speaker.
They probably can't hear me though.
Can you try again?
Yeah, it sounds good right now.
So,
I don't think I can hear myself. Yeah, no, nothing's coming back.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we had to mute the TV. It's probably picking up some sound. Okay. I guess, are there more people or is just us?
I think Greg is presenting.
No, I think Greg is out today. He's on PTO, so he wanted me to lead.
Oh,
drive the
sure.
meeting.
So let me open the
Agenda.
agenda.
Yeah. So I think only thing we have today is framework metrics. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to chat about today other than framework metrics?
Let me double check that the sound is okay.
Yeah. I guess not. So, right. So can you project?
Last time Ian was here,
Okay,
it seemed like they were starting a discussion around at least what I call local bursting. But
Okay.
I don't know if they wanted to continue that, if they're still working on it, or
Oh, Ian, sure.
what. Yeah.
Doesn't look like they joined today.
I mean, we can also talk about the minimum capability thing.
Yeah, we could. I don't know if you have anything. We could mention it. I don't know if you have anything written up at this point.
Not yet, but maybe let's first converge on whether we want to introduce this. I think Vinod had some different thought.
Sounds good.
I could not hear what you just said.
I think he's just saying we could add the minimum capability downgrade stuff to the agenda to discuss it. I don't think he has anything written up, but just to make sure everyone, just to see if there's any objections, I guess.
So do you want to discuss that? I think it probably worth discussing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see the I sharing the agenda right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so for the framework metric stuff, for the folks who are not aware, basically what we're doing right now is adding per framework metrics. to the master mainly. So far, what we have in Mesos is essentially metrics that are cluster-wide, like number of tasks launched, number of offers sent, and stuff like that. But we really did not have a way to partition them by frameworks. So it kind of becomes hard when you're trying to understand the individual framework's performance or a master's. How is the master responding to individual frameworks, workloads, and stuff like that. So this kind of mainly stemmed from one of requests internally here at Mesosphere, where they're trying to run a large number of frameworks in a cluster and trying to understand how the system behaves and why it behaves a certain way. So as part of it, we started implementation around how to figure out the metrics that we want that are useful on a per framework basis, and how to essentially kind of write them. So there is a design doc that was shared with the community. It's not really a design doc, but more like an overview doc on the kind of metrics that we've been thinking. So we added those metrics. Right now, we haven't committed any of those metrics yet to the master. There are reviews out, and we've been testing some of those metrics on an internal branch, which is based on an older version of Mesos, 1.4 specifically. And looks like from some of the tests that Gilbert did regarding benchmarks, looks like the numbers don't look that bad when he benchmarked I think up to 100,000 frameworks or so. It wasn't significantly. It wasn't any. I would say it was. The difference in performance was not that alarming. It almost looked very similar to what was there before versus what was there after we added per framework metrics.
Oh, you mean the per framework metrics doesn't interfere with performance?
Doesn't seem to.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have material impact.
What did he measure?
So
I assume just the response time or something.
Response time to the metrics endpoint, V0 metrics endpoint, and V1 metrics endpoints. And I think he measured it.
Just out of curiosity, was V1 much worse, or was it about the same?
Yeah, let me share some. Okay, I don't know.
Or do you want to share the screen?
I'll maybe put the numbers here in the doc. Maybe that's useful. Let's see. Okay, maybe why don't I put it in gist and then put a link here? It's probably easiest to consume.
Sure.
Okay, let me put that in the doc here. So if you click that one,
how can I make an oops. Okay, let me do it again.
maybe close it or something.
Yeah, let me just zoom.
Yeah, I can just do command plus.
I have. Why can I?
What happened? Is it closing it or something?
I don't know. I'll just use this. That is stupid.
Okay.
Can you see this?
Can you guys see the benchmark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see them.
So I think what you mentioned was the number of tasks roughly correlate to number of framework in the sense that each framework runs 10 tasks. So if you divide the number of tasks by 10, you would know the number of frameworks that he's been using. So the first one is about 1,000 frameworks. So you want to power your laptop. And that's under a second. So this is before we added per framework metrics. And if you scroll down, this stuff is after all the per framework metrics are added. And as you can see, previously it was 280 milliseconds for V0 metrics, whereas now it's 300 something. So it's like about 20 milliseconds extra.
Well, it looks like they're pretty variable as well, so I don't know. If, like, if you scroll up within one of the benchmarks here, like one took 13 seconds, then one took 5 seconds, then 13 seconds again.
Oh,
maybe that's just because protobuf helps that much, but it didn't look like it helped that much in the one right before.
Yeah.
So it's just a little one, like, I don't know if there's
something going on his machine, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay.
Yeah, but looks like if you just look at this one, which is 10,000 frameworks, it looks like we're already going past second. It's close to 3 seconds already with 10,000 frameworks.
So this is, I'm assuming this is based on the master failover benchmarks and where the frameworks don't actually connect. Agents just come back with tasks from frameworks. Is that enough? Is that enough to measure this? Maybe it is. I guess the frameworks get put in recovered or something in that case.
They probably get put in recovered. Yeah. Like I haven't seen his code, what exactly did. I don't know if he posted a review. You can take a quick look to see if he actually posted any review for that. Yeah, added benchmark test. So let me put that also in the doc here. Sure. Yeah, he just started agents with frameworks. And he didn't, I don't think he did not start frameworks at all. Which I think should not matter, I guess, for the metrics.
Okay, well, anyway, we can do that, look at that during review time, I guess.
Yeah. But
just curious.
Are those frameworks still active or not? Because otherwise, there's a bounded queue, and the matrix end will return just results for a few of them.
There's a bounded queue so there's active tasks in those benchmarks as well.
Yeah, no, there was something saying completed frameworks.
Yeah, the completed stuff, that's going to get bounded, but there's also active stuff that can be set up for those.
Yeah, like frameworks per agent. We went from 1,000 to 10,000 to 20,000 to 40,000.
Okay, yeah, I see there are only 5 completed frameworks, so that's fine.
Yeah, 5 completed.
Per agent.
Yeah. Oh, wait, is it agent count or is it the framework count that's 1,000?
Oh, what?
What is the expected like the frequency of hitting this matrix?
Frequency, I would imagine probably like once a minute or once every 10 seconds or something, depending on the metrics collection that people use. Sometimes big clusters they use once a minute. Sometimes they might hit every 10 seconds.
This
Yeah.
will block master, right?
So the gauges, so at least the per framework metrics, we're trying to use gauges that are push based instead of pull based. It's a new thing that Ben Mahler added. It's part of this effort. So if you're using push based gauges and counters, there should not be any work that happens on the master during the metrics collection time. I mean, when someone hits a metrics endpoint, it's not going to affect master.
But who is going to push?
Master is going to push.
Okay, still master is going to push.
Master is going to just update a variable essentially
Okay.
inside the metrics actor, just like it updates count. So at least the per framework gauges and counters should not generate any dispatches or anything onto the master actor or any work. The work only happens when the master is incrementing a metric or setting the value at whatever rate those metrics change.
So this like several seconds delay are only about serialization?
Yeah, likely, yeah. It's probably the amount of data and serialization, yeah. Which also seems pretty high, I guess. 3 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at what's going on there. There are existing gauges that have to dispatch to the master.
Yeah.
That have to loop over all the tasks and do some things that are expensive.
Yeah, so maybe, yeah.
It's also the case that the metrics code is not optimized. Like looking at V1, I noticed that it does extra copies, but I don't really see that showing up here that much. I think V0 uses JSONify.
It almost sounds like sometimes V1 is better than V0.
But like that could be possible due to the JSONify overhead. I don't know. I think we updated it to use JSONify. But yeah, we've never really profiled
The metrics.
and the metrics path. So there could be some issues there, or it could also be that the existing gauges, the non-per framework gauges, are doing a lot of looping and so on here. Like they have to loop over 400,000 running tasks, I think a couple times at least, right? Because they're going to compute different task status counts. And that's probably pretty expensive as well.
Yeah.
So I think a combination of optimizing the metrics path and moving some of the existing gauges to push gauges would drop this down.
Yeah, so I guess let's look at the 10,000 one that took like close to 3 seconds before, and now it took, it's actually faster.
So which one? This is
Weird. So this is after it took 2.5, 2.6 seconds with 10,000 frameworks.
Yeah, this optimized binary?
like what's the difference?
Probably not, is my guess.
Hopefully not. And like, I don't know if it's the same version.
I don't know if Gilbert would have known to change his configure setup. So it's probably not optimized build.
Probably not optimized. And do we think it's the same version? Like, I think this one was 1.4 branch, right? So this is definitely based on 1.4 branch, where we added this cherry pick dispatches. I don't know if this one was also 1.4 or maybe it's a different version.
I mean, if he was running it on the box that other people use, we might have just been saturating it a little bit as well. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think at least if you look at relative, like what it took 3 seconds before, and now takes 2.5. It looks like either it improved or at least it did not deteriorate.
Sorry, could you say again what's the difference between these two?
So the second one is including the per framework metrics. The first one does not include per framework metrics.
Go on.
So this is more data in the second one. We were seeing if it materially has an impact.
So if you look at the last one,
It's
so if you compare this one, the last one, the 400,000 one with the previous one, like if we use protobuf, it takes 5 seconds, and now it's 10 seconds. Looks.
Yeah, I think that one, it seems like an outlier because
Yeah, I think we definitely need to run more runs.
more iterations or something like that.
This is not very informative, I guess.
But I guess at least relatively it doesn't look like it deteriorated. It almost seems like it improved. I don't know why.
Well,
Taking 10 seconds, taking 13
because of
seconds.
the loads, the different.
Maybe the different loads on the box. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably at least.
I guess one question I had was given at least once, I guess we need to run more runs to confirm, but sounds like it does not have any material impact. If that holds true, should we be committing this upstream? One of the worries we had was this would have a lot of impact for people with big clusters if we just started including per framework metrics. And we're wondering whether we had to do like query or some kind of filtering query parameters so that they do not get per framework count if they don't want to, stuff like that. But this almost sounds like we don't have to worry about that. It sounds like.
Can we have a toggle?
I think we'll have to ask those who have the concerns, like James, to understand if he was concerned about master performance or if he was concerned about his metrics integration starting to slurp down too many metrics, or if it's the latter, then he might already have like a constrained list of metrics that he uses, or he might want to set up a filter to reduce the response size. But from this, at least, it doesn't seem like the response size is having a big impact. But it's also like local networking and so on. So I don't know.
Local networking?
Like maybe it's a big response, because especially if it's not compressed.
I feel like another thing we should measure is the CPU time of the master. Like, what are the overhead of collecting these extra metrics? And if it's not very significant, I think it's okay to just put it on the master branch with the toggle. So the toggle will take care of people who don't want to receive those per framework JSON, right?
Yeah, I guess the question is, do we want to add a toggle like very specific to metrics, or do you want to do more generic query mechanism?
Oh, I see.
And if you just want to do like one-off a toggle for metrics for per framework, seems what would happen if you add per agent metrics in the master? How would that look? It's more complicated than just adding a toggle.
Yeah, I know. But what's the urgency of this? Like,
urgency of landing it in master?
Yes.
I guess one concern I have is the code is going to change on master. It's going to become harder to backport, or actually front port to master. If it goes stale, like in a month or two, it will require a lot more work to actually again get it properly compiled. And I mean, if there is no, at least on the server side, doesn't look like there's that much performance change. So I feel like we don't have to worry. On the client side, we need to see if clients somehow get overwhelmed, or if they're just to client side filtering, is that okay?
Does the response time a good metrics for us, like claiming that there is no performance change on the server side?
Well, we know empirically like I don't know what you're saying there, Chun, if you're referring to the master specifically, or if you're just referring to like CPU overhead of the whole process.
Master.
I mean, for the master, we just know that we haven't introduced any additional computation
I see. Okay.
because everything gets pushed. So the overhead is now in the runtime path,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a bunch of like atomic sets,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which you can do a lot of those in a second. Those
Mhm.
should have pretty negligible overhead.
Okay.
Like that was the approach, was let's just use counters and push base gauges to avoid introducing any work as part of this, just so that this doesn't take any additional master time.
Got it.
Yeah, just basically adding like an instruction here and there, wherever we want to increment the counter or gauge.
We also should ideally turn all the existing ones into push based to fix some of the known issues with metrics, but that's kind of another effort. It's not that trivial.
At least the easy ones we should be able to do, I think. Right?
Now, I mean, we could do them. It's just a matter of someone picking up each one and transforming it.
Yeah, yeah,
Some of them not as easy as others.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess the question is like, if we do, I guess, more benchmarks and we conclude that it's not significantly different, should we just go ahead and land them in master?
I would just ask James what he was concerned about specifically.
Okay.
You can probably also ask Uber, I guess. Since they have huge cluster, but actually I don't know how they use the metrics.
uh,
I guess if we also made metrics strictly faster, that would be an easier pill to swallow, I guess, too. But I'm guessing that there's a little bit of a concern on the consumption side, maybe.
I think we need to do some more tests. Right? Like, are we confident that it's not going to impact, like the serialization part? It's not significantly increased.
I mean, from this one doesn't look like it, but
Yeah.
we need to do more tests and an optimized build to see.
Yeah, optimize build and probably run like 5 times and remove 2 outliers, like the best one and the worst
and
one.
see if it's negligible.
Yeah, and probably just take some profile measurement and look at the code and fix some of the low-hanging fruit there.
Okay. Yeah. Been good so far. Yeah, I guess we need to reach out. I guess should we just comment on the doc where James replied, or should we just send an email, like follow-up email to the original email?
We could just mention to him that we talked about it in this meeting, and we're hoping that he should chat specifically to him about his concerns. Maybe he wants a meeting, or maybe he just wants to do it over email or whatever.
Okay. Let's reach out to him and put an action item. Okay. So talk about the next topic. Fine.
You want to share your or
No, I don't have a design doc yet. So right now I'm in a coffee shop. Is the noise acceptable, or
it's fine.
It's okay. It's not good for.
okay? Or Ben, do you want to drive that? I think we're on the same page.
Sure. Yeah. Um, so okay. I'll just wait for Vinod to finish writing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm done.
So when we did 1.0, what we told people was we're going to support running across different 1.x and 1.y versions of, say, master and agent.
Mhm.
And we're also going to support, in general, jumping from, say, a 1.x to a 1.y.
Mhm.
And when it comes to downgrades, what we said was, if you're not using the new features
Mhm.
that version you're trying to downgrade to doesn't support, then you should be able to downgrade to that version again.
Uh-huh.
So for example, if you had an agent that never got a refined reservation on it, you should be able to downgrade back to some version that doesn't support refined reservations, as long as there's no other stuff that you started using that isn't supported on that old version.
Mhm.
So assuming that's the only feature that we're interested in, that we're using, we could go back to any version that doesn't support it because we're not using it.
Mhm.
That's kind of what we've been doing. However, we have no enforcement of that. So when you do a downgrade, it might not work. It might do something very bad. We just don't know.
Uh-huh.
And there's nothing in the system that tries to stop a bad downgrade. So when Michael and I were working on the agent side of the refined reservation stuff, when we started thinking about downgrades, we realized that we needed to build something sooner rather than later to make the agent and master be aware of the minimum capabilities that they need based on the recovered state. So for example, an agent would read its state and see that there's a minimum capability for refined reservations in there because someone started using refined reservations. And if that agent doesn't recognize that capability, it would refuse to start. It would say this is not a safe downgrade because there's some unknown feature being used, rather than just kind of proceeding and whatever happens, happens. Same for the master, same idea there. The master would look at the registry and say, uh-oh, there's some minimum capability that I don't have. This must be a downgrade, and I'm going to refuse to start rather than try to interpret this stuff that I don't understand, right? Or ignore it, basically. So that's the general idea of how to approach this problem, like how to make downgrades something that users can try safely without needing to say, I don't know, look at all sorts of endpoints and try to find which features they're using. Like we don't give them a tool for that. And so it's just really hard to do downgrades today. And it's not safe. So what we're trying to set up is this. We want to get to a world where when you add a new feature, all you have to think about is, okay, do I need is this a new capability? If it is, I need to write that capability down as the minimum capability when the feature starts to get used. And that's all I have to think about. I don't have to worry about anything else because the existing logic is there to prevent downgrades if a minimum capability is there that we don't know about. So I think that's an easier world to be in than the current world, which is like trying to document what will go wrong if you downgrade when you started using a new feature.
I guess the question would be, do we want to try to not refuse to start up?
Do we want to try to not refuse to start up? What do you mean?
Like for example, with the reservation refinement, I thought the way we got around the downgrade problem was the agent was always checkpointing it in the old format so that whenever,
If possible, yeah. If possible.
yeah,
So what that means is any reservations that, if you're not using the new feature, it's fine because everything was in the old format.
Mhm.
Only those new refined reservations are going to have to be written in the new format, and the
So
agent won't understand those.
are the new style reservations checkpointed in new format?
Yeah, they have to be. I mean, the refined ones have to be.
The refined ones, okay. And what happens today if you downgrade that will refuse to start, or it just gets ignored?
We don't know. We'd have to audit the code to see.
I see.
And it's hard to know this in general because we can't anticipate what features we're going to add. So we can't really write safe logic today because we have no idea what features we're going to add, right?
I think the refusing to start issue is kind of orthogonal to this minimum capability. I think if we check that the minimum the agent or the master does not meet this minimum capability, what to do next is another issue. I think by introducing this minimum capability to the list, we can like provide a simple tool for the operator to understand what entails with this downgrade. As to what to do if there's a mismatch between capabilities, I think that's another thing that we can discuss.
And right now, do agents know what capabilities they have? I guess that's in the photo. Yeah.
I mean, the later version.
There's a question of what to do about existing features that have capabilities, because we didn't set this up yet, right? So
What happens to
we
all 1.5 and older custom agents?
they just wouldn't have the capability logic, right? So they don't know anything about it. They have the existing behavior, which is they just downgrade and do whatever happens. So if you don't use the feature, it works out. But if you do, something will go wrong in some way. Hopefully it just stops starting because it has an error or something, but it might also just read it in and have different behavior or something like that. But we've also wanted, like we probably want to backport the capability check so that if someone downgrades to a 1.5.1, they have that capability check to check if it's safe.
I mean, do they all even have capabilities?
What's that?
Do like 1.1 master, 1.0 master, do they even have capabilities?
I think a master capability is introduced with agent reconfiguration in 1.5.
Okay.
But the agent capability, I think, should be there earlier.
What agent?
Are you asking whether there's implicit capabilities for Node? Like,
Yeah, like
or
it was not a thing that was introduced. in the code until 1.3.
Yeah, it's not explicitly written down, but there are a whole bunch of implicit capabilities, I think, right?
What do you mean by implicit?
Like
Like based on
in,
what's something.
in reality, there's a capability needed, but we never added
Oh.
one in the protobuf.
Mhm. Um,
So, I mean, we don't have a design at this point, but that's the general idea, is to just try to make downgrades something that are safe to try. You don't have to worry like if it will totally screw up your cluster, because there's like a fail safe to stop if we see that there's a feature being used we can't handle.
But that also means once you upgrade and accidentally enable the new feature, then you can never downgrade.
Yep. If
I
you
mean,
start using a new feature.
there's a possibility of reverting. For example, if you use quota limit, and later it's possible that you can remove all the quota, and in the code we will detect that all the quota are removed, so that this registry no longer requires quota limit, and we will remove that minimum capability from the registry. And then from that point, even though you use it before, you can still safely downgrade.
I guess that means
Yeah.
you need to
So,
have.
so if you want to be really good, Chun, you would take out that minimum capability when the feature is no longer required, right? Like if a refined reservation goes away, you could take that capability out as a minimum.
So it's like we need to have some reversion logic in the new version. And so when we remove the capability, we will do all the revert things, so we can safely downgrade, I guess. If we want to support this fully downgrade thing.
Yeah, that's if you want to be extra good, right? Also let it become downgradable again if the feature stops being used, rather than it being a one-way transition.
I guess. Let's see. So how come we don't have this problem during upgrades, but when we have this during downgrades?
Well, for upgrades, the pro is increased, so we always know what is being added. For downgrades, the old versions are using the old protos, so they just don't know what is added.
Well, there's problems during upgrade, but they're different problems, right? We have to still think about upgrades, how to deal with an upgrade situation. What capabilities might make easier is that we can see the transition happen. So we could say, oh, this registry was written by an old master who wasn't quota limit aware. I'm going to now rewrite the registry with explicit limits, and I'm going to say, I am limit aware. I'd have that capability. And so the next master that comes up knows not to rewrite it again because it sees that it was written by a quota limit aware master.
But if it writes a quota limit aware capability as minimum capability and writes it, then the downgrade would fail.
No, there's different capabilities. There's a minimum capability and there's just the capability of the master. If I write down all this new quota with explicit limits set, I don't need the quota limit as a minimum capability yet until someone starts to set a quota limit differently from the guarantee. The old semantics were that the guarantee was implicitly set to the limit. So as long as that stays the same, the downgrades doesn't need the minimum capability there.
Yeah, I guess so is that better? So in that world, when someone uses a limit that's more than guarantee, what do we want the downgrade to do? Do we want it to just fail?
I guess one possible route
I-
is
I don't think we want to be explaining this on a feature by feature basis. I think we want to tell people a general rule, which is, oh, if there's a minimum capability now that because you used a feature, you can't downgrade until you get rid of that minimum capability. So either for quota, that means not using different limits than guarantees. For some other feature, it means something else. But I think that it would be easier to explain to people that general rule. They don't have to think about it on a feature by feature basis.
the general rule could be like you can first use the same version and turn off the capability, and then the new version will rewrite the registry or checkpoints using a format without that capability, and then you can safely downgrade. If you, yeah. I mean, what we can do is say, if we want to downgrade from say 1.7, which have quota limits, to 1.3, we could make the quota limit capability configurable and restart the cluster with the 1.7, but turn off the quota limit capability. And if the 1.7 master sees a registry that has the quota limit capability, but now it's turned off, it's responsible to convert it back to the old format.
It's not a safe conversion to do.
Yeah, maybe it's not safe.
I don't think Mesos would ever want to do that. Maybe we let the operator rewrite the registry as a general thing.
Yeah.
And we tell them, hey, you can take out this capability if you want, but you should know what you're doing.
Yeah.
For this one, we recommend you also go and wipe all the limits that you've set.
I see.
But I don't think Mesos would want to do that because we would go and drastically change the behavior of the allocation without them really understanding that. I don't know. It's just like, is it over engineering? Like, do we really need to go that far with downgrades? I think people just want it to be safe as a first step, which it isn't even safe today, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering whether, because once they start using new feature and if they somehow found some other bug somewhere else and they say, oh shit, I want to downgrade, what's their way out? It almost sounds like it would have been better if the code was written in such a way that when they downgrade, it just ignores that stuff or something instead of.
How do you do that in general? It's very hard to do that because you can't anticipate what features you're going to add.
Well, I guess I'm saying when you add new features, you have to think about that. The way you're
Yeah, but the problem is you have to think about it now on all the existing things we've released. We don't know what features we're going to add 10 releases from now to think about that now, right? Because what they're downgrading to is what our current code, which has no idea what features are coming, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying when you add a new feature, you have to think about how old code would react to it.
Well, that's the approach we've been doing. And the problem is that we can't change the old code. And so we don't have any control over it doing the right thing.
Yeah, we don't have control of the old code, but we have control of the new code that we are writing. And we can write it in such a way that it doesn't affect the old code, right?
Not really. How do you do that in general? It's very hard to do that.
Like for example, the limit, if you say limit different from guarantee, when you downgrade, what do we do?
Limit is an easy one. We could say that like it goes back to the old behavior, which isn't good, right? That's going to drastically change all the configuration they set up. But it could downgrade. It's just, I don't think we want to. I think we'd want to tell them, hey, your configuration is going to change a lot here. Like your allocation is going to dramatically change. Is that okay for you? If so, you should rewrite this.
How would they rewrite? I think that sounds like really hard.
Yeah, but the person who's doing that downgrade needs to know what they're doing, right?
I would imagine they would just want the old behavior for downgrading.
Not if they started using a new feature, right? Like let's say I started using refined reservations. I've got all sorts of volumes on there. I downgrade the agent, reservation's gone. That would be very bad, right?
I guess if that's not what they expect when they downgrade.
Well, I don't think it should be I don't think the system should be doing those kinds of things during a downgrade, right? I think we should only be downgrading if we can maintain the behavior. If we can't, we should tell them. What to do in that case is a separate thing. Like, do we need a tool? Do we need like all sorts of tools that can rewrite things and so on? Or do we just say, you're on your own here, like here's the instructions, wipe all the limits, understand what that does. If that's okay for you, you can wipe all the limits and wipe the minimum capability. But like, I don't, how often are people doing downgrading? The fact that it's not even safe today makes me think it's like not that often.
Yeah. Well, I guess if they're not doing at all, like, why do we want to introduce this?
I think when people do downgrades is like they do an upgrade, there's some amount of time, they think it's not working, they think something's wrong, so they want to go back. I think that's probably the main 90% use case. I don't think people are going to go, oh, I'm a 1.5, I want to go back to 1.3, unless like they just upgraded to 1.5. So I was mostly concerned with when they want to make this decision, let's just make sure it's safe. Let's make sure it doesn't screw everything up. And then they're in a worse situation because their clusters is all screwed up. And then we have to come in and be like, okay, what did you do? You downgraded from 1.5 to 1.3, but oh, this error message means you probably used this feature. Okay, well, how do you get out of this? Well, you got to go back to 1.5. Like, that's just like very hard to figure out, right? I just want a simpler story around, oh, there's minimum capabilities. You used a feature. It's telling you that in the error message.
You cut it off.
I just stopped talking.
Oh, well, I'm not sure how you implement this, because if the old code doesn't know about capability, it's probably hard for them to print out the error message showing that, okay, you're using this new capability.
Yeah, we were thinking of using strings for that. So that like a string in addition to the enum, so that the old code could print it out clearly for you.
All right.
I mean, that's one of the problems, and there's some ways to solve that, like how to print out a readable message instead of just saying, oh, there's some enum we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if it's enum, you cannot stringify directly?
Well, in all proof of this non-never defined, the enum will be treated as unknown field, not even an unknown value for the enum.
I mean, even in the new protobuf, we could only print out like 9 or something.
Well, you can use, there is a stringify function for enum.
Yeah, but it's just going to be 9.
I don't think so.
It doesn't know. It doesn't have that definition.
Oh, you mean using an old protobuf or new protobuf?
Using Proto 3, but not having that enum value.
I thought we were talking about Proto 2.
Okay, well, Proto 2 is even worse. You won't even know that it's 9. You'll just know that there's something unknown.
Yeah, it will be, the enum will be set to a default value, and there will be an extra unknown field there.
Okay.
Yeah, so probably you need a message that has a enum and a string.
Probably that string will, yeah, be for printing purposes.
Yeah, just for printing.
Only.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's just one part of this, how to print a nice message.
One missing detail. But it's like if we see a default value like unknown, then we just print out a string and then error out. Terminate the recovery or something.
Would we be able to read the string? if it's unknown?
Yeah, string is fine. It's just a field, right?
We would, like the old code would be have written down the actual enum to string value in the string. So that the old code can read it and just be like, and print it for the user. Like, oh, this is quota underscore limit.
Yeah.
That I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. And is that something that would be at the top of the capability, or is that going to be more granular on based on the data? I think capabilities will be the top level on the checkpointed data.
Yep. I mean, there's other ways to do it, but that's probably the simplest. And the most applicable to all sorts of features we might add. I mean, I don't know, we can look at how other systems do this, but I imagine it's probably something similar.
Yeah, have you looked at Kubernetes or something, like how they do deal with it?
Well, they may use.
I don't know if they do anything, but I was thinking more like more mature systems, like, I don't know, databases and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see documentation page about downgrades. It just says don't try to downgrade Kubernetes.
Oh, it's.
Yes, they don't downgrade.
Need downgrade tests. Upgrading, downgrading, okay.
We're over time.
Yeah, we're over time.
Okay. I think we can continue the discussion next time once it's have probably like a design doc or something around this, or some document.
Yeah, I can try to
Okay.
grab some.
Cool. That's all. We'll meet again next time. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.